It is far more interesting and delightful to read a faithful, honest, sincere, thoughtful, and tender account of a writer's experiences, of a writer's stories, than reading anything else.
"25 meters butterfly, blah, 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 Michuki." My race was called. I needed to pee and I was up for a swim.
Of course, anywhere you go in Kenya, you're going to be accused of being a CIA agent, right? So you get used to that very early in the game.
Walking through the streets of Kampala helped to ground me in the history of that space.
I wish I had like a very intellectual answer, like Kaiser, and say that I was a flaneur and I walked around the streets of Nairobi, but I didn't do that, right?
The first time I chose myself, it was for skateboarding. I stumbled upon skateboarders, a group of skateboarders in Uhuru Park. They would fall and they would get up, right? It was stupid, to be honest.
My agent promised me that wherever you're going, it's gonna be a safe space. Like those stories you have heard in the medias, those stories you have seen, they are stories of girls who went to illegal agents. Agents who are not registered.
I want to thank you so much, all of you, for joining us tonight. A night of literary camaraderie, a night of appreciating and celebrating great writing and great storytelling. You will appreciate this, you will relish it, you will savor it, you will enjoy it. If you read the book, you'll be forgiven to think that everyone in there is a seasoned writer with decades of experience under their belt. Why? Because they all deserve to be in this anthology.
I tried to write long prose. I could write good sentences, but I didn't know my society. I didn't know what I was writing about. I didn't even know the meaning of my name.
So if I died today, then nobody would ever know. And so writing, was sort of like the solution to that.
My editor asked me to think of it this way. He said, just write. Just assume we're not publishing this story. Write it for yourself first, read it, and then we'll figure out what next.
So every story has a story. The story of this story basically begins like this. I'm at a car wash in Marsabit, Jabba place. Guys are just milling around on a bigger story, right?
Personal events that happened decades ago, but captured oh so beautifully and so accurately. Wanza, could you take us through your story?
On your marks, get set, go! I dived in, gliding my body in a wave, gaining momentum, head out the water, breaststroke legs. I didn't stop to look at anyone else and couldn't hear anything other than the rhythm of my breathing. My arms were like paddles, up over my head to the front, down, pull, breaststroke legs, head up, inhale, repeat.
I took in as much of Riyadh as I could. Post-quarantine, I was driven to my employer's 3-story home. I was being employed by a man who wanted me to take care of his daughter and her daughter, his granddaughter. All I can say is the family seemed powerful and well connected, and the man's granddaughter was never to be called by a name.
I looked up and saw 2 rats rising with postcard picture gloriousness on a jutting piece of rock with a wondrous, fairly complete Roman aqueduct reaching towards it from the valley beside the rock. But I couldn't, for the life of me, see a path that would lead me to it. I retraced my steps and meandered about, hoping I had enough of a repository of French to ask for directions.
In the middle of one corridor, Baba and I squeeze into one of the smaller stalls. A man chewing Mira exchanges pleasantries with Baba, then tells us he has Vitu Moto Moto. The man pulls out a pair of blue and white Reebok sneakers and tells us those are Reebok pumps. He and Baba proceed to tussle over the price as Baba scrutinizes every corner of the shoe. Hii ni ile original? Baba asks. Is the sole intact? Does it have any scratches? Are the insoles okay? In the end, a firm handshake seals the deal, as Baba and I walk away with the shoes. No money exchanges hands. Huyo ni mtu wangu Joe, Baba tells me as we walk back home. That's his homeboy.
Agagoni was now representing a new kind of Swahili Mui. Its establishment was proceeding through the settlement of Bajuni and returnees from the Swahili diaspora, their Boni and Orma neighbors, and supposed outsiders like our Kamba visitors over time. Like the peri-urban areas of Nairobi and Mombasa, the ethnically mixed Majengo neighborhoods defining the rise of Kenyan towns and other spaces of multi-ethnic interaction, it was possible to discern how such informal processes were contributing to the emergence of a more cosmopolitan, multicultural Kenya.
The similarities were too provocative. I just had to write this piece. The parallels between Sir Apollo Kagwa, a name that one ought to know, and Yoweri Museveni coming to power militarily under British support, the idea that Nilotic people were mortal enemies of Bantu people, even though centuries of migration and intermarriages had blurred the lines, had helped the British use Apollo Kagwa in the 1880s and 90s to destroy Bunyoro Kitara and to help Museveni to destroy northern Uganda.
There was a renewed silence and a fear you couldn't exactly put a finger on, sprawled carelessly on our coffee table. The endless evolution of the public and private lives were transmitted to us children by the subtle silences of our parents. Even in a remote and provincial town like Marsabit, International Monetary Fund, experimental policies such as the structural adjustment programs met real-life survival concerns. Whatever was going on in the corridors of power in Nairobi, a capital which was a 2-day lorry ride away on an untarmac road, played out in the shape of the shadows or the textures of the silences in the neighborhood.
The last time I tried to kill myself, I was 25 years old. I stood on a ledge 9 floors from the ground, staring into the abyss that was my life. It called to me as it always did, taunting with memories of all the things I should have, could have, or would have done better. Powerless to do much else, I stood there, taking it all in, letting shame and regret weigh me down. Maybe if I stood there long enough, the weight would be weighty enough to send me over the edge.
I have never seen such a huge display of vulnerability on one stage at any single time in my years of attending book launches, either as one of the writers or even as an audience member.
When we allow people to tell their own stories and to create their own narratives, it gives a certain freedom, it's cathartic for them, and it's a healing journey for them. And the fact that this platform is here, I appreciate it, and I appreciate Debunk for creating it.
I really liked that, what I saw on stage and what I've seen on the table of contents. It looks like it's a nice slide through the whole of the Kenyan experience, from the most privileged to the least privileged.
Thank you for trusting Debunk with your stories, for taking your chances with Debunk, and for opening up what we believe is writing and storytelling revolution in this part of the world. Asanteni sana.